Great.
Hi everyone, it's Artemis here and Yonka, and we're coming at you tonight on Tuesday evening just to answer some questions that women have actually messaged through to us. Yvonne and Natasha were having some tech difficulties, but we're going ahead and having a bit of a chat with you, and it's beautiful. Yonka, did you want to jump out and say hi?
Hi. And I've just been out on the country where you will be questing on, or doing your wilderness solo on, and just to let you know, it is just stunning, magical country that is gentle but also like strong country. So very excited, reinvigorated, very excited to be doing this journey with everyone.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to just hear a little bit about it before we started recording this for everyone, and I'm super excited to go out. This land is really gentle and very deep sacredness. There's a very deep sacredness there. Yeah. So recently I put a post up and some women wrote back to me some of their fears. So the first one that women wrote back to was their concern for leaving their family. And I can really relate to this. I had the first time I quested, I didn't have children. But then later in life, when I did have children, I was actually really concerned about leaving my daughter. She was only 3, I think, at the time. And it was a really big process of just leaning back into trusting that she was going to be held here at home. And yes, it was going to be different to when I was here. And yes, she would miss me. And yes, she didn't want me to go. And yes, it wasn't completely in my control what was going to happen for her. But what did happen was that she went through the most incredible journey of her own and was actually really connected to me from that like etheric level. And when I came back, had actually journeyed through some of the same stuff that I had journeyed with out there. It was really interesting. I really had to lean back into that trust, and it was pretty big to leave her for 10 days, but I did, and there was no regrets. And I came back and she kind of like done a little transformation of her own through that process, and now she really is familiar with wilderness solo and what happens, and she's seen me go out multiple times and her dad go out, and it's actually connected her to land more and taught her about what we do and how important it is to sit on the land. And she's been there, you know, with the drum welcoming her dad back, and it's been like a important part of her development to see the way we connect with the land. What are your experiences there, Yonka?
Yeah, very similar. And you know that in the end, this journey is not just your own journey, but it's that ripple out effect of that your family journeys, and when you come back, you're sharing what you've learned with your family. So you're not only doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your community around you. Yeah, and you know, all of it is a challenge. It's yeah.
Some of the journey isn't just about being out there, is it? It's the lead up to it and what we have to navigate and get through and overcome and weave our way into where we need to be to actually then sit on the land.
And that's often quite a large part of the journey, actually, and a lot of growth happens there, even just to get out on the land.
Yeah. And Yonka, did you want to speak to being in the dark alone at night?
Yes, very much. I mean, I'm personally one who loves the dark, and I actually work a lot in the dark, and I even find I sleep a lot in the day so that I can work in the dark. But what I found when I go out on quest, because you're actually there for all the changes from sunrise to dusk to sunset to darkness, and because you're part of the ecology, it is a very different feeling than just stepping out into the dark at night and not knowing where you are. And if you are connecting, if you spend that time to really connect with the more than human world around you, with the trees and the birds and the shrubs, and you have allies to be with you in the dark. So it is a scary concept, but it feels very different when you're out on country sitting in, being in the dark, because you've moved through that transition together, and you've built these relationships with these other beings that are around you. And you're also building, when you go out there, you're building your protection, and you're building your guardians to be with you. So it's a real trusting that you will be safe and you will be held.
And they've also obviously got those 3 nights that we're going to be together before they head out on their own in solo.
Yep.
So there's going to be those 3 days where you're going to be really deeply held by us throughout the day, throughout the night. So you can get used to the sounds of the night, get used to the animals that come at night, get used to the sound of maybe a kangaroo hopping past, get used to what it looks like when the sun sets and when the sun rises and where the stars are. And it's like we start to sink into the landscape. And so being in the dark just feels like huddling in a bit of a cave.
And you'll be getting to know country, and country will be getting to know you. And the other thing is, Australia is an incredibly safe place to do wilderness solo in. Like this weekend, I was with someone who spent many years in Africa, and we were laughing like, you'd never do this in Africa.
It's a lion coming up your tent.
Yeah, and you probably wouldn't do this in America, like because of the bears and poison ivy. And Australia, on the whole, although it's touted to have dangerous things, just doesn't. Like a snake will not wander into your space at nighttime. And we've got kangaroos and we've got wallabies, but they're not going to hurt you. And like, on the whole, Australia is one of the safest places to have these experiences in. And we weren't far away. That's another thing. We're not far away if something does frighten you and you need to come back to camp, or we need to come out to you.
Yeah, that kind of leads into another fear that someone spoke about, is like who may visit them at night, like any animals or people that might come across them. And I think that's sort of, there aren't really any animals that are going to come that will hurt anyone. And this place that we've chosen is incredibly safe. It's each woman is going to be in a spot where they're hidden from, a road or anything like that. It's public land, but it's a what would you say, not frequently visited place? Is that how you would word it, Yonka?
Yeah, absolutely. And the time we've chosen is not a weekend, so even more privacy there. And you won't be that far from each other, even though you'll be not be able to see each other. And base camp's not far away, so there are all these held measures in place, I guess.
Yeah, and each participant will have a walkie-talkie with them, so that you do have that possibility of contact with base camp, and that's 24/7. We're always going to be available, even if it's the middle of the night. You can reach out to us and connect with us, and we will come to you if we need to. So it's almost like you can be as alone as you want to be. You can not contact us at all for 3 days, or you get stuck, you can reach out. Yeah. And fasting, that's the big one for a lot of women, is that fasting. And I was terrified of fasting. I was like 10 kilos lighter than I am now the first time I did my wilderness solo, super skinny. And I had no concept of whether or not I could fast. And when I was out there, I just had water. And what I found was there's no times of the day to remind you that you need to be eating. You're not near a kitchen. There's no one else that's eating. There's no one else that's cooking. There's no smells or aromas. There's nothing that tells you, oh, it's 2:00, I haven't had lunch. There's nothing during the time that you're out there that reminds you about food. And the more you sink in, after the first day, you're kind of in a slightly altered state of just being more connected to the land. And for me, I use that as like 3 times a day. Okay, I'm not going to eat 3 times a day. I'm going to actually meditate. So I'm actually going to really, each time I would have normally eaten something, I might have a cup of tea, like just hot boiled water, or a drink. And then I'd actually use that opportunity to go deeper. And so over the 3 days, I actually, like, each time I meditate, I just kind of sank deeper and deeper in to my own body and the land, and found that it actually wasn't an issue. How have you felt? What was your experience, Yonka?
Well, we fasted this weekend.
Yeah.
That bodies actually really love fasting. They really love that break, and that after the first half a day, your body doesn't even think of food anymore. And I also see fasting as that's what we have to offer. We have to offer the journey, and we have to offer back to land, sort of like a prayer in emptying ourselves and hollowing ourselves out. It's part of that hollowing. It's part of that offering, that gift back to land, that we put ourselves through that process of fasting. And it also leaves you mentally and your body very clean for listening to
Mm.
country. So it's yeah.
Yeah, there's a
And
clarity. It's like a veil that's lifted, isn't it?
absolutely, yep. And then you realize how much time you spend actually worrying or thinking about food, and to have that all that taken away from you. And we will send you out with some salts, which is really important for your body. But um, it's amazing to realize that your body doesn't need to eat all the time, and actually 3 or 4 days fasting is really good for you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and the cold. What have your, I've had different experiences with cold. I've quested in the desert when it's been really hot and 30 degrees, and I've quested in southern Victoria when it's been August and freezing cold. And when it is August and freezing cold, then it is important to have a little stove with you just to heat up that water, and to have a hot water bottle on you. And that's what I did when it was really cold. And it really was just a beautiful way of keeping my thermal temperature, good. And the cold, in a way, it just brings another element in to that experience, because I was never actually cold. I looked after myself in that way to keep myself warm with woolen clothes and a sleeping bag and a beanie, and always wore like a windproof jacket or something like that. But it was just another element. It's just, whether you're out there and it's warm or you're out there and it's cold, it's just another element and another way of feeling your body, feeling it. We haven't, people forget what it feels like to walk on the ground when it's cold, to have your feet on the ground when it's cold, because we're always so protected from that. And so it's just another bodily experience, like that another sensation for you to travel and journey with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, I've just been there this weekend and it wasn't that cold. So I imagine in October it won't be that cold unless a cold snap comes through. And you just have to, also bring enough, like bringing something like a skin to actually sleep on makes a really big difference. Something underneath you. Just try and keep yourself warm, especially at nighttime. But yeah, it's just one of those other things that we've lost a sense of, and to work with that.
Mm. Yeah.
And I guess one definite rule we have is, if your sleeping gear gets wet, you come back to camp. Like, that's a dangerous condition. So we would expect that if you actually did get really wet and your sleeping gear got wet, that you came back to camp, and then we give you some more gear to be able to go back out with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're here. It's not like a survival experience that we're going through. This is like a really deeply nurturing, nourishing, supportive container. And we're here for you, for you to go to your edge, whatever that edge is for you. And that edge is going to be different for one woman compared to another. And there's no judgment or comparison for us. It's just about us supporting you and being on country and allowing you to reconnect with the power and the energy of this place.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Yonka, before we tie things up?
Just that, this is all about reconnecting to country, and it's trust it. Trust the country wants you there. Trust that this is what you need to do, and just trust that it will work. It will work out. And I think it's like Artemis says, this is not survival camp. That's not what it's about. It's about the Gina of alone who just loved country and asked country for everything she needed and was provided. That's what this is about. That's about knowing that Mother Earth has got us. Yeah. So trust that.
Yeah. Thank you, Yonka. That's beautiful. All right. Well, we hope to see some of you out there. We look forward to it. So much love to you from us.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.